Welcome, and thank you for your participation. Before we get started, we'd like to provide a few helpful hints for making this a productive webinar for everyone. During the webinar, we ask that you mute your phone or computer microphone. You can do this by clicking on the microphone symbol to the right of your name. If you see it highlighted in red, then you are muted. If you have a concern or technical issue, please use the chat function or send an email to adeck@iteea.org. To make the screen larger or smaller, use the plus or minus symbol at the top center of the screen. To make it full screen, use the diagonal double arrow. For questions for our presenters, you could submit a comment in the chat box or email adeck@iteea.org. Questions will be addressed in the order they are received during the presentation and answer portion of the webinar. Please note the drop-down Send to menu in the chat function and select Everyone so your question or comment is visible. Please note that there will be a slight break in the voice feed between each transition. Dr. Cole Galloway, Blue Collar Futurist approach guides his interdisciplinary collaborative work. His personal interests in family, music, comedy, and social justice mix effortlessly with his professional background of rehabilitation, neuroscience, child development, human-machine interaction, and open-source culture. His research, focused on the key role of social mobility in life, serves to directly challenge the out-of-date culture of pediatric and adult rehabilitation with a highly hopeful set of alternative products and processes. As the founder of Go Baby Go, a 90-plus chapter research, education, and advocacy movement, he invents and studies rehabilitative devices for children and adults with a significant mobility issues. His approach of combining high-tech and low-tech into Go-Tech has garnered funding, awards, and partnerships with top-tier organizations, including the National Institutes of Health, the National Foundation, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Department of Education, the Smithsonian's American History Museum, the medical and toy industries such as Fisher-Price, and the American Physical Therapy Association. His latest push is to exponentially scale the impact of the Go Baby Go movement through implementing formal curriculum into primary and secondary STEM education in the U.S. and abroad. Andrina Sabet is a physical therapist at the Cleveland Clinic Children's Hospital for Rehabilitation and owner of Mobility Matters, LLC. Her clinical practice includes infants and toddlers through young adults in the Mobility and Seating Clinic, where independent mobility options are a focus for every client. She is actively involved with Go Baby Go, participating in NIH-funded research, as well as the advancement of low-tech mobility access for children. Andrina has presented locally and nationally on mobility and positioning and frequently collaborates with manufacturers regarding product development. And we welcome our presenters today. At this time, I will move control of the webinar to Cole and Andrina.
All right, let me take control here and share my screen. Let's see. Share screen. And put the PowerPoint up. Awesome. So hi, I'm Cole.
And I'm Andrina. and we are very excited to be here today. We welcome questions along the way. We are going to leave some time at the end for questions, but please feel free to jump in. We'd like to keep this as informal and interactive as possible.
So to start with, let me tell you a little bit about the Go Baby Go Planet. The mission of Go Baby Go is to help humans, both children through adulthood, to empower their own lives through mobility. It's a movement that was started about 5 to 10 years ago. Now we have 90 chapters internationally. Worldwide, we do about 20 hands-on workshops per year. That produced about 7,000 cars over the last several years, 11,000 Facebook followers. We're very fortunate that most of our chapters participate in some type of scholarship. We have 12 publications and 2 National Institute of Health grants. Our work has been featured in a TED Med talk, and as was previously reported, we have a Smithsonian exhibit. So if you go to DC and go to the American History Museum to the Spark Lab, you'll be able to see one of our cars. The White House has enjoyed some of our stuff. The National Institute of Child Health and Human Development Directors exhibit. If you went there, you would see they have 6 exhibits of high-impact work throughout the country, and we're fortunate enough to have one of them. We have a lot of fun with corporate workshops with NASCAR and NFL. We do a lot of what I think is very good media, including commercials like Citibank. So we're involved in research, training, and service. What we're here to talk about today, though, is what's gotten the entire Go Baby Go planet very excited, and that's the ability to scale up the building of cars to reach a 30,000 kid need in the U.S. So we came to ITEEA and basically asked them, can we help partner with you to disseminate a formal STEM curriculum that brings the real problems of mobility and the real solutions of ride-on cars for high impact. These are examples of the types of technology. Today we're going to talk about the bottom left. That's a Wild Thing. That's a Fisher-Price ride-on car. It's very easily modified for kids of all types of abilities. The middle snapshot is a Sweetie with a play skin lift. This is Michelle Lobo's creation from the University of Delaware. That's also going to be included in future curricula. That's a garment-based technology that can also be built in the classroom to help children who cannot move their arms be able to lift, and that's also been studied in National Institute of Health funded research as a significant technology. That's a $24 technology that empowers kids to move. Bottom right, that's my buddy Andrew acting a knucklehead in his home. Andrew has a form of spinal cord injury in which he can't move his legs as much as he would like to. That doesn't stop him from using his in-home harness system to wrestle and interact with his brothers and sisters.
All right, so the project that we prepared for you today is to kind of give you a glimpse into the curriculum that's going to be coming soon to the ITEEA website. We really hope that we can energize you and excite you about this project, and we want to kind of touch on all of the highlights. And as we go through, we're going to be covering a lot of details and a lot of content, but we want you to keep in mind that this is a big project, and we're going to share with you that big 30,000-foot view of the project as we go. So even though we might be talking about some of the details, getting prepared to do your project, to do the build, we're also going to be talking about what happens at the end of the build as well. So we really want to keep that big picture in mind. All right, and then here is a video to get you started to show you a little bit what we're all about.
This is what your build's going to look like.
We couldn't believe the enthusiasm, the excitement surrounding the cars, and of course the children was just unbelievable. A lot of smiles. I don't know that I've seen as many smiles in one place in a long time, and it was tremendous. Everybody from the children watching their cars be built to the volunteers who were building them, everybody had a smile on their face. Everybody was excited about the mission, and we're just happy to be part of it.
So that was an example of a media shot that we produced for a Cleveland, Ohio workshop. What's interesting, I need to stop there and tell you, that's the kind of media piece that you will provide to give the community, donors, future partners, recruiting new families, partnering with clinicians and other engineers in the community. You'll be able to produce a piece like that. That's what Go Baby Go and the Modified Ride-on Car STEM program is about delivering an actual product to the community and tracking that with media to tell the story of what you're doing.
So there's a few elements that make this project unique, and we had talked with several middle school and high school STEM teachers, and we asked them kind of what does this project say to them that's different about other projects that they would typically do in the classroom. And these are the things that kept coming back as recurring themes. Social justice, it's a user-centered design program. It works with the community and the school together, and there's also a big push for safety.
Let's take these each one by one.
All right, so if we talk about social justice, this program really extends beyond the walls of the classroom. So we have kids building cars for kids, and it really raises the awareness of middle school and high school and even elementary school students about kids with mobility issues. And if we look at kids with mobility issues, a lot of times it's very easy to think of if a child is sitting around and not able to move, but they don't have quite as much to contribute as a child that's running around and playing. And we kind of mistakenly have that misperception about children that have movement issues. And what's really amazing is when you take this project and you get those kids that without the cars don't have the ability to move and then put them in a car where they are mobile, it really changes how they are viewed and how they view themselves, because movement is really how we define ourselves and our personalities. And the really cool thing about this project is that the students get to be a part of that process and that journey. So they're learning right now at their age. They're not having to wait till they have a career and they're out of college before they have an impact on the world. They can make a difference right now.
And that's that idea of hashtag without STEM, I don't move. Literally, how fun will it be to turn to your science, engineering, and technology-focused students and say, if we don't provide these cars, these kids aren't mobile. The industry, medical technology industry, cannot do that for birth to 3, birth to 4 years old to the extent that they need to. So again, without STEM, I don't move. The other hashtag is hashtag middle school matters. You don't need to wait around to matter. We're building a car for kids right now in the classroom.
And the best part of all for me is that this really incorporates the idea of user-centered design. So with a lot of STEM projects, it's easy to get caught up in the technology where you're really focused on the car or the technology of what you're doing. But here, really the main focus is the user. And if you look here, we got a picture of the little guy, and he's getting ready to move. And it's about what movement offers to him. So that movement's going to give him an interaction that he didn't possibly before had the capability of doing. You can see we build a lot of fun into the cars. They really need to reflect the user's personality. You can have Mickey Mouse, you can have Nemo, you can have all kinds of theming around the car so that it really is about the child and the driver and not so much about the technology.
And I think I totally agree. And I think the design aspects are oftentimes in STEM relatively limited to the science and technology and not the aesthetics. Because these mobility devices will be going into the community, they can either be high-tech and stigma amplifying, meaning chase people away, or you can take seriously the design of the aesthetic, as we'll outline in the curriculum and in today's talk, and give that child an even deeper probe into the socialization as kids come toward the car. For example, the only kids you want to have crying at your drive event when you hand the cars out are the siblings that are complaining, I never get this car. Look at this cool car. We'll take that. And again, with the Inventors Unite hashtag, it just reminds me to remind you all that there's a lot of latitude for creativity and inventing here. This is not a one-shape-fits-all. This is a user-centered design built, customized for a child and a family and their home environment, and that's where they're going.
And to take that fun even a little bit further, you really get to bring it not just within the walls of your school, but out into the community.
Right.
These are cars that are going out to real kids in the community, so there's a bridge there. And then you're going to find that there's a lot of partnerships that you need to create along the way. So we're going to talk as we go through about some of those partnerships and all the people that can interact together to really create a diverse team that makes a very successful project.
A quick shout out to Gavin Wood at the Barstow School in Kansas City. I know he's listening in. I'll just recruit him to help all you guys connect with your community. No one does it better than Gavin and the Kansas City Variety Club Go Baby Go chapter. The hashtags of Field Trips Forever and Reverse Field Trips just reminds me to remind you of leaving the school as part of this project, and also having the community come in and participate and see the cool stuff you're doing with these ride-on cars. It's part of the DNA of this project.
And the last unique part of this is the safety factor. And we really need to take a minute to talk about that, because we're not, again, talking about a project that lives within the walls of your school.
Right.
We're talking about a real car that's going to a real child, and it's going to have real impact. So there needs to be some significant safety considerations throughout the whole process. And those safety considerations not only need to be for your students with the use of tools and the building that they'll be doing, but also that the car is going out is safe to be used, that the wiring that changes have been made are safe, and we have mechanisms for that we're going to talk about. And then we also want the driver to be safe. So we want this mobility experience to be a positive one, where they're able to have fun with their siblings and their buddies in a way that they couldn't before. And to do that, we need to make sure that there are good safety precautions in place.
Hey, Andrina, can you talk a little bit about why safety isn't a scary thing for Go Baby Go? It's actually an indication of the impact.
Yes, because we really want these cars to be utilized. So it's really important that we do our due diligence up front. And we're going to include in our program a lot of safety checkoffs, some basic safety testing. We include a diverse team, so there's an engineer on the team to check the wiring. There's a clinician on the team that is familiar with kids with different abilities with their bodies that can help your students and you really feel that what you've come away with is a very successful project.
Cool. Let's go into the first big step, and you're going to notice, as Andrina said before, in the preparation, pre-build, build, and driving events, each of those arc through a lot of different components that are similar, and there is a lot of preparation. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of opportunities for planning and designing by your students, creative stamps of your own stamp onto this, and of course, lots of problem solving. No one step is very difficult, but there are a lot of steps such that the build time, when you build the car, it's almost a lock. There is nothing that will go wrong during the actual build, because you've already had the preparation and design. You've already had a pre-build design plan that involved the family, clinicians, and others. And so the build is locked in. It is going to be successful. So let's take a look at two things: resources and framework.
All right, so when you get started with the project, the four main resources that are really involved in this project are funding, time, space, and people. So if we explore these one by one, funding is one of the ones that first comes up. And oftentimes people get a little scared here, like, oh my goodness, because we really want this program to be free to the families. So we don't want there to be any cost to the children or the families that are receiving the cars. So to do that, we need to generate funding. And what we've really found in all the chapters that do this is by going out and developing partnerships with the community, that funding is a pretty easy sell. We have a couple examples here up on the screen. First, up at the top, we have Get Maddie Moving, which is a GoFundMe account. This was done by an elementary school group not too long ago, and in 4 days, they reached their target funds for their project. In the bottom right is, again, another shout out to Gavin Wood and his group there. This group in Kansas City partners with a foundation called Variety Club. And the Variety Club Foundation handles the funding aspect of the project while the students focus on more of the modifications. So the community is really ready, and by using these media packages, and you can just Google Go Baby Go online, and you can find all kinds of videos and things that you can show your donors. And many of you may have already business alliance partners from some of your other projects. And we've seen these cars sponsored by insurance companies. We've seen them sponsored by car dealerships. Professional sports teams have sponsored cars. So there's a lot of ways that you can really generate community interest and then get the funding for your project.
And just to highlight something, I hear the collective ugh of, yeah, I've got time for fundraising. Well, you have time for fundraising because the Go Baby Go network of chapters has already generated media packages. In the curriculum itself, we'll have templates of letters. This fundraising is not going to be the old school fundraising of begging. This is going to be more of describing to the Jeep dealerships and the State Farm insurances what you're doing, sending them that quick media package, like the Cleveland, Ohio workshop. That video that you saw just a few minutes ago is available online. That's your media go-to. It's not necessarily just you trying to describe it. You can show them. And then also, I'll give you a hint for something that comes downstream is you're going to invite your VIPs and your potential donors, your current donors and potential donors, into that drive event. No one gets out alive coming to a drive event where you actually see it. Let's go on to teacher-student time, because time is a big deal.
So you can see up here on the diagram that there's a lot of areas that kind of demand some time for this project. And as Cole mentioned earlier, putting in all the time on the front end really ensures that that build is going to go really smoothly and successfully, and that your drive event is going to go well and be nothing but fun. And I can't stress enough the concept of partnerships, because really learning how to disseminate the different tasks involved in putting this project together, and knowing that there are 90 chapters across the world that are doing the same thing that you are, you will find that there can be quite a lot of support for what you're trying to do.
Right, this is a family, so you should feel as you go through this Go Baby Go style curriculum for the modified ride-on car that you're really never alone. There's always, especially online resources, someone's already had the barrier that you're coming up with and will help you solve it. Let's talk about space real quick. Space, the final frontier, is no different with these kind of cars, except the cars can be big, the boxes can be big, and the workspace can be big, and you're going to want to have a drive event where your sweet drivers are able to go around and show off for themselves, their caregivers, the students, your administration, that Jeep dealership that's going to actually fund 15 more cars next year, and the local and national media. I will tell you, get the space right. Make it a space that's bright and cheerful. Have your drive event outside of the school in a community space. Even space is a chance for your students to use their design thinking to creatively create a space. And some people want space to be the same for the build and the drive event. Oftentimes you'll build and meet in school and have the drive event out, like I said, in a community space. Why? Because you're already thinking about sustainability and showing off for your community what your school has done, and the community will now come and participate even longer. Let's go to resource assessment. The most important resource is people.
You can see we've got a lot of people gathered around this little guy in his car here, and it really takes a village to put this project together. As we mentioned, you as the educator can be involved partnering with clinicians in the community, so an occupational therapist or a physical therapist that is familiar with working with kids with different abilities. That can really be a huge asset to your team, and I think that can really help bridge some of the initial hesitation maybe with taking on this sort of project. That takes that responsibility away from the teacher and the students of having to try to do all the problem solving about how best to work with this little guy, and it really can make your project shine. Engineers are a key member because they can provide the safety checkoffs. We recommend that every car be checked off by an engineer before it goes out to a child and family, and that just, again, takes away the pressure of you being concerned about the safety of the car. It just adds those extra safety nets. Students can be involved in the project everywhere. We have some that are involved in every step of the way. Some programs that have a lot of students will designate student teams, and maybe there's a team that focuses on the funding and a team that focuses on the drive event, whereas others will have those same students participating through the whole process. So there's a ton of diversity that you guys can explore based on what your resources are, and just again, not forgetting your community in terms of additional volunteers for whatever you may need.
What we hear from the 90 chapters, this is, I didn't mention that the chapters range from third graders in Canada to BMW-sponsored nonprofits in New Zealand. We've got university campuses, we've got elementary, middle school, and high schools. As far as we know, we have about 24 different elementary, middle, and high schools already doing this, and the curriculum's not out. So you can do this. What we hear from people is once you've arced through one or two cars, the people, the educator, clinician, engineer, student, and community, the funding, the materials, the space, the rhythm is all set. Now, through the media, kids and families in your area need you. You will be contacted by them, and you'll go through that same pipeline over and over again. And one or two cars typically turns into 10 or 15 cars at a time, and you're really racing a high-impact waiting list to get kids to cars together. Let's talk about the framework now.
So as I mentioned, it's really important to keep the big picture of the project in mind. So we've talked a lot about the resources that you need to get together, but then we want to also be thinking about the car. So we're going to be talking about the initial modification specifics. We're going to talk about those safety plans even from the very beginning, talking about the drive event and the media, all from the get-go. So the first one is looking at your initial modification specifics. And we have a couple things here to kind of help guide you about how the heck you're going to do this. And the first one is really looking at the complexity of the build. So when you look through the curriculum, you're going to find that there's some guides as far as to match the complexity of the build to the expertise and level of your students and yourself. So we really recommend that everyone start at a level 1 to gain some experience before you tackle the more complex cars and kids. We talk about tracks, and that's who your car is going to. You've seen a lot of pictures and videos where cars were going to individual families, and that's definitely a really fun, impactful way to move forward. But you could also design a car for a facility that might live at a hospital or might live somewhere else, and that might be a really fun way to get started as well. There's a lot of diversity in how people build. Sometimes people do the build all in one day, as you saw from the video, whereas others take a whole semester to build their car, or maybe do it over a week at a high school summer camp. So there's a lot of variety in terms of how those builds are structured.
Before we go on, I'm going to just mock out what I think I feel from the collective participants. This is starting to get complicated. It feels like I might be drowning in details. This is asking for a lot of extra. But you and I both know that this is not as difficult as it may look on first blush. These level 1 cars and car recipients are relatively simple. The modifications, electrically and mechanically, are relatively simple. So it's easy to enter this, and we've done a good job of putting in the curricular package templates, sample hardware and modification lists. And back to Gavin Wood, another shout out. Gavin and his students decided to give back to Go Baby Go movement planet-wide by running a forum called Go Baby Go Connect, CONNECT. It's a place to find all types of hardware lists, all types of manuals, and more importantly, all types of support for funding, pre-build, prep, build, drive event. So you're going to be covered. Let's talk safety again. Whether it's student safety, car safety, or driver safety, we're drilling down a little bit deeper. In the curriculum will be simple safety testing instructions and checkoff forms. This has been taken from those 90 chapters, and we have the best of our safety and liability plans in there as templates for you to build off of. And again, we're not scared of safety. We want to plan for safety because this is real, and the real world brings safety and liability concerns. Drive event. Take it.
This is the most fun of all. This is a chance where you get to celebrate all of your hard work, and this is what makes it all worthwhile. To see those kids in their cars driving around, to see parents crying, to see everybody just having fun, it really shows what you've done and how you've made a difference. So you get the impact factor right away. You're not having to wait for it. You get to see it right away. This is also a great opportunity to recognize your donors and your partners. Different groups make up t-shirts. You can see a banner in the backdrop of this picture where they've listed out their different sponsors. So this is a great way to say thank you to everybody that's participated and to really celebrate the event. It also spreads awareness. So we wanted to show the students that they can make an impact. Well, it also draws the community into that impact, and it also calls attention to what it means to not be mobile in your community, and how really as a society we need to start making some changes and really getting some more opportunities for everyone to be mobile.
Let's talk a little bit about the visibility plan. It goes right from the drive event. Visibility and media often come as an afterthought. Let's build and put the car to the kid and then invite the media in. But in the curriculum, we've reminded you that media is something that needs to be planned for along the way. The world, locally and globally, would like to see STEM making a difference. Whether this is social media, traditional media, or even school press, this is part of the design. This is part of the science, technology, engineering, and math aspect of the modified car. Media is planned for from your prep all the way through driving event, meaning you're going to cover your elementary, middle, or high school in the preparatory phase. The story there being Galloway Elementary is preparing to build cars for kids, all the way through the drive event. Now we're back talking to the Jeep dealership about why they're sponsoring, why Kiwanis Club is sponsoring, and why the Rotary Club just gave a $15,000 check for next year. It creates a media package that cuts down on the time that students and teachers need to spend in the next round. A lot of this first round is setting up the infrastructure so that you go from 1 to 2 cars to 10 or 15 cars, and you eliminate immobility for birth to 3-year-olds in your community. And it's also a quick way to show impact for your donors, recruitment of new families, get those volunteers. And STEM is an award-heavy institution nationwide, and you know that awards are looking for high impact. Now you have a visibility plan to generate media to bring home those trophies. Let's take a quick look at Wichita State University's media. I'm going to get out of PowerPoint just for a second. We'll take a look at an example. This is the kind of media plan that the curriculum is going to help you build.
Experiential engineering building on the Wichita State University campus, and these are high school students at a summer camp. They are learning how to modify off-the-shelf toy cars for children with disabilities. And oftentimes these children have trouble walking or moving, and so what we do is we hack the car, we change the electronics inside, and we custom fit it for each child for whom we build. And so today we have what we call Delivery Day. We have 4 children that we built cars for, that these high school students built cars for, and they will deliver them. So we'll have one child come every 30 minutes so that you can watch them get in the car. We'll custom fit it. It'll be like a pit crew where the engineering students kind of descend on the car and make any last-minute changes, and then the child will get to drive their very own car. This is the WSU Go Baby Go program, and it actually is part of a national group of programs that were started by Cole Galloway at the University of Delaware back in 2009.
Oh, I feel really excited. Having her move is really good, because when she was born and they told us what she had, we seriously didn't think that she was going to walk or crawl. So seeing her move and being with her brother, that makes us really excited.
It's an unheard of experience. You'd never experience something like that anywhere else in the world except for this camp. I love this camp. I think that's actually my most favorite part about the entire ride, was seeing her smile and get used to the car.
So that's a great example from Wichita State of how to do a media package. It's I wish I could tell you that it's super hard to do those well. They're not, because you've already pre-planned, you've already sketched things out, you've got a great set of steps of how you want this to go. So it almost always works out, and then that kind of media can then, like I said, propel all these other aspects of your program. Now let's arc back to the beginning and talk about the next phase, which is the pre-build. The two focus areas here are why we build the cars and how we build the cars.
So this is sort of filling in that framework that we started in the preparation section. And with any good engineering challenge, you need to define what your problem is. And here the problem is immobility. So we really need to have a good understanding of what immobility is, why mobility is so impactful, and how that really affects kids when they have it or don't have it. So this is the science behind all of what we're talking about here. This brings in a lot of medical information. This can bring in biomedical aspects of engineering. It really takes a look at the reasons why these cars came around in the first place. So it's a really exciting way to share with your students, and these are just an example of some of the modules that will be available to you to share with your students to help kind of convey that message so that they start to really understand what the problem is that they're trying to solve.
And I just want to highlight real quickly that the User-Centered Design 101 and 201 I think is really novel, because this is an actual big girl constructed design module that's very focused on children and families and understanding. It involves questionnaires that you're running home to the people that your students are caregived or that love them, their parents or other people, and asking them about parenting styles, asking them about children and when they were young. So it involves the parents as well as the student. Mobility and Immobility 101, again, like Andrina said, is the neurophysiology, the brain sciences, and the body, the muscle, bone, as well as the social psychology of friendships. It's in a nutshell. It'd be difficult for a student to come out of these modules and not understand. When they see that drive event, when they see that child smile, they'll have some semblance of the explosion that's going on within the brain of this child. And if the car is actually designed properly and is used at home, what the potential impact. I think possibly even more than anyone else in that drive event, the student should be able to look at that child and the driving and have this tingle of, I really made an impact, not just a smile today, but mom, dad, teacher, friend, I understand what this means to this child's life for the future. Whoop. Not yet, James.
And the next part here is the how. So this section really focuses on creating a formal user-centered collaborative design plan. So the really fun part here is you get to meet the driver and the family and get to know who that child is and what they're all about. And that's really, really a critical piece to designing that car so that that child can make a difference in how they can move. We're going to touch on how that would then translate into helping you select a car, all the different features of a car that you would need to consider. And then that culminates into a collaborative planning meeting where everybody gets together and gets on the same page for the design implications for the car. So everyone's in agreement about what's going to happen. Everyone understands the safety and liability measures that are being taken, the forms that are going to be used, what the media involved is going to be, and that everybody's on the same page. And this kind of culminates into a formal plan that everybody signs off on, and that just really serves to manage everyone's expectations so that we're all on the same page and have the same outcome.
Yeah. And we mock this 1 through 6 based on the design industry and the formal commercial businesses that we interact with occasionally that are design businesses. So this is taken out of their 3-ring binder about how they do user-centered design.
All right, so we're going to meet James here. He's one of my super cute buddies, and he's about 8.5 months old here in this video. And things to kind of watch for are the things that you're going to be learning about your particular driver. How well do they sit? How well do they hold their head up? Can they move their arms? And one interesting thing to note about James is even though he's 8.5 months old, he is still not able to crawl. and he's still not able to get in and out of sitting on his own. So his mobility is very different from a typical 8.5-month-old, and he can only play with what he can reach around him. So if that ball rolls too far away, he's kind of out of luck, and he just is content to move his arms and look around at things, but he doesn't have that opportunity to explore and to interact. So that's where that mobility piece comes in. So now we're going to jump ahead to James in his car. They're a little loud, sorry about that. And here, this is the same time, we've really changed his mobility. Now if he wants a toy out of reach, he can go get it. And that's life-changing. He can learn about activities, he can learn about the toys, and when he's done, he can move away. So it's all those choice making that goes into defining who we are as individuals, defining our personalities, and it really changes things for him. So if we take a peek at James' car, what we learn about James when we meet him is with that, since he has that ability to sit, we don't need to give him a whole lot of support in the car. He's got a seatbelt that you can't see. He's still a little wobbly, so he's got a PVC frame around the sides that provides some support just to kind of help keep him in check. And there's a little bit of a stop behind his head, and that is just as you saw, the car has a little bit of jerky acceleration to it. That's just an extra safety check back there. So by meeting James and seeing what his abilities are, we can design those supports around him. And we've also designed how he activates the car. So out of the box, this car had a little thumb switch on the steering wheel. We changed that to a large button switch, which you can see he's got both hands on that switch. He's still needing some help with the steering right now, but that changes as he gets older. But that is how he can activate the car. So that gives the designers an idea about how to change the electrical structure and also the physical structure of the car so he can be successful. So after you've had a chance to meet your driver and meet the family and get all the information, then you get to go back to the classroom and do your work where you actually mock out what those electrical modifications are going to look like. And here's where your circuit diagrams come into play, where you start to build diagrams of what those mechanical structures can look like. You get the fun of doing the aesthetics and personalizing the car to make it really stand out for that child. And with all of those designs, then you develop your shopping list.
All right, so you can see now when we enter the build phase, we've arced through background, preparation, the pre-build, the science and engineering, and a bit of the technology behind mobility, immobility, user-centered design, and now you're ready just to execute that build. Builds have been as short as 90 minutes. Builds has been as long as 35 cars over a half day, full day. So these are flexible things that you can decide on.
And the mechanics, besides doing the actual construction of your actual changes to the car, this is also the time where you're getting those safety checks. So the engineer is coming by after the wiring is complete and running the safety checks on the engineering. The clinician is coming by and taking a look at the child in the chair in the car for their initial fitting, and how does that test drive go? Can they hit the switch like they thought you could? Are they as stable as they thought you would be? And this gives you a chance to really mock that out, prototype it, and make any last-minute changes that are needed. And finally, before that car goes home, you can add to your safety plan by having an educational process for whoever's taking the car. So does the family understand safe places to use the car? Do they know how to charge the battery? Do they understand how the seatbelt works? All of those kinds of things. You can check all those off, which just adds to everyone's peace of mind.
And remember, when that engineer or clinician is checking off, your students are right in the middle of that. It's important for them to also say that the plan for electrical and structural modifications are okay, that the initial fitting, that the test drive, what do the parents say or the guardians say about the modifications and the safety check. So again, it's a time for a team to come together to make some final checks. If you notice something, you make modifications then. And the team will start to get excited because they're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. They know they're about to get their car driven.
And this is just a little snapshot of one of the Lightning McQueen cars. The electrical structure on the left-hand side of the screen was how it comes out of the box, and the right hand is the modification where you have power going to the switch and also through a relay. And here's an example of the structural modifications that were done for this little sweetie. The car out of the box again on the left, and then the modifications that were done for her on the right. And just like Cole said, an idea of time frame, modifying a car like this with this style of support is about a 90-minute to 2-hour build. So it really can be a fairly quick process once you've done all the preparatory work.
Right. And the preparatory work, it looks simple and streamlined because the design was great and it had the driver in mind. So, you know, everything looks easy when you have an expert or a person that's practiced. And so all those arcing through the preparation and pre-build makes for a build time that's almost, like I said, guaranteed to go well. Let's take a look at the last, this is the last slide before we have questions. This is a drive event that's put together by the University of Central Florida, Jennifer Tucker there. And we included this for a couple of reasons. One, it shows you how to include multiple people. Number two, it shows you the number of people that will come to your event. Most chapters have more volunteers than they can possibly use, and they sort of have difficulty selecting which volunteers do what for whom, and that spurns on other chapters in the same town. Sometimes volunteers just break off and do their own chapter because they're so excited. Also, it introduces the harness system. The harness system you'll see there in the near future, we also are going to have a do-it-yourself DIY harness system that's going to be part of the curriculum. So you'll have the cars to build, you'll have these harness systems that also help kids that cannot stand and walk by themselves be able to play. So take a look at that harness system and take a look at this wonderful, wonderful celebration.
All I needed to see was his first smile when he could feel his feet touch the floor. My grandson, Jackson Canistrari, is a little over a year old now. He's very bright, has some lower extremity motor delay. He just hasn't been able to get his legs moving the way he'd like to and keep up with his older brothers and sisters. We were told about the Go Baby Go program, and for the first time, Jackson was seated in a harness to where he could be upright, start using his feet and feel his environment.
It took him about 5 or 10 minutes to figure out, like, what the heck is this thing? He trusted Grandma and Grandpa that this was going to be something safe. He started taking steps, started to play. If that child had that device in their home, there'd be a lot of positives to that. I'm Cole Galloway. I'm the founder of Go Baby Go from the University of Delaware. Our product can help babies and toddlers become more mobile and more social, either through harness systems or ride-on cars. Today I saw a child with Down syndrome who was already a ferocious explorer get in a ride-on car, and he drove and he drove and he drove and he drove. And at the end, he was tired. He's a toddler. That's the way it's supposed to be.
You think about a 12-month-old. Their arms are out, and it's a perpetual fall as they walk around. When you look at children with motor impairments, they don't have that opportunity. So the ride-on car is an inexpensive, accessible way that we can provide those children with motor impairments the ability to control their own destiny. They can push a button, and they can have mobility.
So I think it's a phenomenal program, and it's just something that I'm sure will grow because it gets these kids out in the real world, out in the environment where they need to be and love to be.
My expectation is to come back in a year and see University of Central Florida taking over not only in pediatric mobility, but also in adult mobility.
So that's a little bit about the curriculum that Andrina's built with a team of 90 chapters. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope that you see yourself doing this. This is not something where at our talks and events, we don't want people leaving going, that was really great for them. That's amazing. We want people to leave going, I've got to do that. That's too much fun to let them do that. The one thing to leave you with is you can do this. We're here for you. Go Baby Go is in existence to help people build. And just one heartfelt, sincere request is really that hashtag that says "without STEM, I don't move." There is no way currently to get to 30,000 cars for the kids in the U.S. that need them, except through K through 12 STEM. And so that's why Go Baby Go is focused on that. That's why ITEEA and our other partners are so important to us. Please share it. Please contact us directly. Simply Google Go Baby Go and contact any of the people in the movement that you need to, and we will do what we can to help you. Thanks so much, and we'll take any questions that folks have.
Oh, someone has asked the question, are there schematics available for the level 1 modifications?
Yes, we have, in the curriculum, we will have several types of level 1 cars. It's a little bit of a moving target because the manufacturer and the toy industry is always changing, but we do have several examples that will be available, and that's another place to utilize the Go Baby Go Connect, in that people are frequently posting manuals and how-to guides to do the different cars. But yes, the manual that we're putting together will have several examples of level 1 cars.
If you search Go Baby Go Connect, CONNECT, that'll take you right to the forum. You can join the forum and see. And they're level 1 cars all the way up to 0 radius proportional drive cars out of University of North Florida and other places. In fact, Gavin posted his wild thing that the Barstow First Robotics team did there. There's probably at least a dozen different cars there. Good question.
And there's a the link to request access to this course in EBD Buzz is in the chat box, and simply you will email buzz, B-U-Z-Z, tech support at iteea.org and request access. And there's one other question here. I would love to see this as a TICA event, and that is the Collegiate Organization for Technology and Engineering Students at the college level. How do we get started?
Yeah, simply contact me. The easiest way is just to search Cole Galloway Go Baby Go, and you'll get my email address. And then we can either chat, text, email, I'll call you on the phone, Skype. There are probably 10 or 15 universities worldwide that do higher level cars. And so if you're interested in going above and beyond into sensors and robotics, that is a fun thing to do. And those allow us to do things like sit, stand, power walking. That's in one car, sit drive, stand drive, and then power push toy. That's what Andrina uses in her research. And University of North Florida, Juan Aceros and folks there have done high level cars. So just contact me and we'll chat. Absolutely.
And when is the Go Baby Go curriculum going to be available?
That's a good question. Hopefully this semester, sometime between now and the end of the year. Right now we have a great module that's the DIY sort of best of everything we can collect in terms of what we went through today, and now we need some curriculum writers to make it plug and play for middle school, high school. So that's the next step, is just making the standards and competencies and assessments and those modules fit the rhythm of middle school and high school. And because we're not teachers, we'll need collaborators to help do that. So that's the last step. Right now, it's out in draft form, being reviewed by middle school, high school teachers.
And I will add from the STEM Center that we do have a pilot version of the course as the DIY available now. And you would email ebdbuzzsupport@iteea.org to request that.
Woohoo! Nice.
Are there any other questions? If by chance you have any other questions for Cole or Andrina, you can contact me, Anita Deck, at adeck@iteea.org, and I will get you connected. Please join us for our next webinar on November 13th at 6 p.m. when Dr. Sharon Bowers will present new missions for 2019 NASA Optimus Prime Spinoff Promotion and Research Challenge, or OPSPARC. Open the world of NASA to your students through the NASA Optimus Prime Spinoff Promotion and Research Challenge, OPSPARC. OPSPARC offers students in grades 3 through 12 an opportunity to trace space back to their homes as they use NASA technology and spinoffs to solve real-world problems. During this 45-minute webinar, you'll get a taste of OPSPARC Mission 1, 2, and 3 as you explore a new interactive NASA website and a 3D multi-user virtual world. OPSPARC is designed for flexible use and could be integrated into your classroom or implemented as a standalone for STEM clubs or special projects. This type of authentic experience builds context for learning and uses your classroom as a portal to current NASA missions. We'd like to thank Cole and Andrina for sharing such an engaging presentation. We also wish to thank our attendees of this webinar for your participation. You will receive a follow-up email with the information for accessing this archived webinar. Again, we thank our presenters, and good evening and goodbye.